But yeah, I want to change the military. I don't want the same military that I joined going out in the future. I fucking hate it.
These are the same people that are saying it's not a Nazi salute, or the ones who are saying nobody invaded the Capitol on January 6th.
You know, if you're a Ranger, you're always supposed to be on time. You're always supposed to be prepared. And it's like, I don't have my shit. I'm not prepared.
Zelensky's a piece of shit. Just a human piece of shit who's taking advantage of all of the negativity in the world and elevating himself to power.
People close to me know, but I fought him. I fought this AI general. I fought him in his plans with everything I had.
The first 4 years was just a test. He couldn't do anything because he wouldn't get reelected. And it's not going to be something that all the things that we're dealing with, it's not something that Donald Trump can just conquer in 4 years.
And I'm going to fight to the death for this. And I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how. I've said that so many times. I don't know how. I really don't know how. I need help, but it's coming. Hi everybody, this is John back from Real Veteran News. Got a new format for the show, breaking it up into 3 different parts. The first part's me talking, second part is me and one person, third part is debate between 2 veterans. Just to get started here, normally I'll be giving the veteran news in the beginning here, but in this one it's going to be a little different. I wanted to just get on some other stuff that I've been thinking about. I was thinking about what to say in the beginning here for this new format, and where I got to talk about myself, the election and Hegseth and everyone, and I have just like so much frustration and hate for all these people and these politicians, and I'm not satisfied with any of them. I don't believe in any of them, and I could talk shit about all of them. And I wanted to do that for about 10 minutes straight. I had a list of Trump and Biden and Kamala, JD Vance, Hegseth, all their fucking kids, everyone. I was just gonna skewer them all, but I figured that's not what people wanted or needed to listen to right now, and I'm not sure many people can take that much, so I decided to think about other things to talk about. I started dreaming again recently, and that's been a new kind of experience. I have a variety of dreams sometimes, but I keep having this one dream where I'm back in Afghanistan. The scenery is familiar, but it's not a specific post or anything that I was at. There's not specific people that I remember. I'm just there, and I don't know how I got there. And we're on the FOB or the camp or whatever, and everyone's kind of not running around, but just moving around, getting ready for a mission. Different people are like, they know who I am. They're like, Koenig, we got a mission tonight, you're up for this mission, we need you on the mission, blah, blah, blah. All normal shit. They've got all their gear, they've got their pants and their uniforms and all that, and I'm just in my regular civilian clothes. I don't know, just sneakers or whatever the fuck I'm wearing. I not panicked or anything, I just have this sense of it's just like, I don't have my shit. I don't have my gun, I don't have my night vision, I don't have helmet, belt, pants, boots that fit, and it's like I have to go on this mission. I mean, not going on mission's not an option. I don't really get it. I just am kind of milling about, kind of looking at everyone, trying to come up with solutions to this problem of not having all my shit, or anything, really, any gear. And I'm like, thinking in my mind, I'm like, I gotta find some guy who's like, hurt, his ankle's hurt, he's not gonna go out. And then, he'll be nice, maybe he'll let me borrow his body armor, let me borrow his this or that, but I'm like, there's no way this guy's gonna have pants and top that's gonna fit me, and, boots. I mean, who's gonna have boots the same size as me? And then I'm a little worried about, platoon sergeant or whoever's in charge. Oh, why don't you have your shit? Why aren't you ready? Why aren't you prepared? And no one's really saying anything to me, but it's just like, I'm just going around trying to figure out these problems of trying to get the stuff that I need. Like, do I have to suck off the supply guy? What? And not doing the mission is just not crossing my mind. I'm like imagining being on this mission in sneakers, or being on a helicopter without a tether, or, having only, one magazine or something. Like, where do I get bullets from? Like, I don't know. It's just very unsettling. And, you know, if you're a ranger, you're always supposed to be on time. You're always supposed to be prepared. And it's like, I don't have my shit. I'm not prepared. Kept happening, this dream, different versions of it, but roughly the same thing. And so the other day, I decided to Google it. And I was like, what does a dream where you're late and unprepared mean? And the AI spit back some shit to me. And I looked at it, and it said several things. The first thing is it said overwhelming levels of anxiety. I don't know if I buy into that. I think, you know, I'm privileged and I have a lot of advantages and I'm in a good position generally. A lot of people would kill to be where I'm at. There's not really anything in my way in like the normal course of my life. I just need to figure some things out and just get back on with what I need to get back on with or something. I don't feel like I have a ton of anxiety. I probably am operating at a level of stress that most people would find crippling. The second thing that it said was unrealistic expectations, essentially for myself. And that kind of hit me a little bit. I don't know if that's causing dreams for a long time, and it's been building. But yeah, I want to change the military. I don't want the same military that I joined going out in the future. I fucking hate it. There's a lot of things about it. I've made videos for 30 minutes explaining all the things that I hate about it or more. And I could just talk about it forever. And I want to change the world. And I don't know, if a ranger from the suburbs, an enlisted guy, someone who's not rich, can change the world. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. But the last thing that it mentioned was missed opportunities. What does missed opportunities mean? It says that you're worried about missing events or not being prepared for an opportunity when it comes. I have been waiting for an opportunity for a long time to achieve my goals and my dreams, and maybe I have missed opportunities. Maybe I have made mistakes. I don't really know for sure. I look back and, it is what it is, but I've made the best decisions that I could make at the time that I made them. And I feel like I'm ready for an opportunity. I feel like I'm ready. I feel like I'm prepared. But apparently, my subconscious potentially doesn't. My conscious mind doesn't think that I'm unprepared. I think I'm ready for anything, to be honest. This has made me re-examine a turning point in my life about 4 years ago in the transition between Trump and Biden right after the election in the winter during the pandemic. There was an AI general at that time. There's not AI generals now because none of them want to touch it because they know that they're too old and too stupid to solve the problem. And there's no benefit to them taking it on to death trap for their careers. At least they're smart enough to figure that out. But that's left us without leadership, and it's pathetic. Some people might remember, and my friends know, and people close to me know, but I fought him. I fought this AI general. I fought him and his plans with everything I had. I contradicted what he said, and he didn't agree with me, and I didn't agree with him. This is my problem slide. I'm not going to read it to you, but China has essentially caught up to us in AI, and in some places they've surpassed us. This is highly debatable. A lot of people say it's not as bad or whatever, but a lot of them are factoring Silicon Valley into, the US, right? And Silicon Valley is not the same as the East Coast Pentagon bureaucrat. They're not on our side. They're on the other side of the country. They're out for their own interests. If we want to ensure that the federal government and the DoD and all the military services are going to have AI that is better than the Chinese, we cannot rely on Silicon Valley. We have to do something to build proper AI. And the AI that China is going to be bringing is going to be hard to beat. Okay. I did it for my colleagues, and I did it for the military, and I did it for everyone, for all of us, because China is coming, and that's what I told him. I told him China was coming to eat our lunch. And 4 years later, yeah, maybe I am right, whatever. I don't know if it means anything. But now he's retired, sitting by his swimming pool, collecting checks from defense contractors probably. And I'm still here trying to figure things out, younger, with better ideas, obviously. You know, he's abdicated and I can't. I can't quit, and I cannot figure out exactly what to do to get us where we need to be on technology and reforming the military. Because I'll tell you, people like him don't fucking care if the military stays the same, and they don't see the technological prowess of the military as their responsibility, because they're just one cog in a bureaucratic system, and they've given up and their brains died. Effectively, I quit my dream job, making the most money that I've ever made in my life. I left the government to go work for and with civilians. And working for and with civilians has its advantages, and there's things that are better about it, but at the end of the day, they're fucking civilians, and they don't care about you or the same things that I care about, especially if they're not American. People like me have ideas, a lot of ideas. I have a lot of ideas, a lot of directions that I could focus my energy on. And they're like my kids, and I'm a father, and I love them all, and I think they're all great, but I don't have enough money for all of them to go to college. I don't have enough attention for all of them. Some of them are going to have to fend on their own or just wither and die, but I have this decision of which idea survives and which idea I focus on and which idea I put everything into. So 4 years later, I'm at another turning point. I have to make decisions in my life. I'm older. My father's died. I've had a lot to think about. The Chinese have caught up to us, and who knows what their military's up to. Our military is just as stupid, led by the same stupid officers that don't give a shit about anything but their careers and their own personal position. They don't have any ideas. They're locked into consensus and groupthink. Now we have this Secretary of Defense who is hopeless, honestly. This is a hopeless man who is fixated entirely on the wrong things. So yeah, I have another choice. What do I focus my energies on? What do I focus my passion into? Where do I stand and fight? You know, when I made those videos about that general and about his stupid fucking ideas right here, with the same camera, standing right where I am. 4 years later, I'm here. I'm better at making videos. My hair looks fucking better. I know more. I have more education. And I'm more inclined to fight. And I'm more inclined to not quit. And I won't quit. And I've said I won't quit so many times. And I have to focus on this. This is what I choose. Real Veteran News is what I choose. And I'm going to fight to the death for this. And I'm going to figure it out. I don't know how. I've said that so many times. I don't know how. I really don't know how. I need help. But it's coming. All right, so here we are with Marie. We're here to talk about Pete Hegseth, the new Secretary of Defense, and all his bullshit. So, Marie, would you like to introduce yourself real quick? And you can introduce your cat if you want to do the cat, too.
Oh, she's always in the way. This is my cat, Mira. Miracle. Mira Jane. Depends on the mood. She's put in the butt. I just returned from a vacation, so she missed me. Hi, Marie, Sergeant First Class. Ended my career in the U.S. Army Reserve in August. So, signal soldier, instructor, all around good girl, you know. It was cool. Attached mostly to civil affairs. So I had a civil affairs deployment to Jordan back in 13-14. Now I do nothing except sit at home and pet cats. Social justice warrior on my keyboard.
You're a social justice warrior.
Yeah.
Or a COVID justice warrior, right?
Yeah, that too. We'll get into that later.
Okay, all right. We're talking about Pete Hegseth, so I want to talk about it real quick and break it up into 3 sections. First section is like all the bullshit he did when he was younger and leading up to pretty recently, actually. Then this confirmation process, and then we'll finish talking about what he has done and what he's going to do as the Secretary of Defense. I've been waiting for a while to get this video done with Marie because I've been trying to find someone that likes him. So the idea here is that Marie likes him, and I don't really like him that much. I'll go first to open it up. I'll start actually by saying what I think is good about him, the few things, because it won't take very long. He did go on military deployments. I mean, there's a lot of people that just like never deployed anywhere or did anything. especially these
Slick
politician
sleevers.
types of people.
Slick sleevers.
Yeah. Wait. What? I don't know. Okay.
Slick sleevers. You don't got
Oh,
that.
okay. Slick sleeve. Get it? Like, okay, he's got no overseas stuff. All right. So his deployments were not extremely dangerous or whatever, but they were, up to a year at certain times. So he's away from his family. He's away from his alcohol, his women, or whatever it is. Like, he's not living the good life exactly. I do think he did it a lot just to set up his political and media career bullshit, which I'm not super into. But objectively, he did go to Afghanistan. He went to Guantanamo Bay. He was in Iraq. They were not really serious deployments like National Guard stuff, but, it is what it is. Other than that, not too much that I really like about him. I do not like the fact that he had this interlude with this woman in California in the hotel room. I don't really believe him. I mean, obviously it's he said, she said, but I mean, no matter what happened, it's pretty gross. Obviously he's been cheating on his wives and doing like all types of multiple women and wives and pregnant women overlapping all over the fucking place, which is also gross. Not a really good example. I don't think he's really contributed to the military discourse that much. He wrote his book about war on warriors, all about the DEI stuff and everything in the military, which I get is a problem. But I mean, this isn't like the biggest problem in the military. And he's kind of appropriating this warrior culture when, just like I just said, he didn't do like really warrior deployments. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a poser thing there. Lastly, whichever one, I think it's the second wife here. This woman's hiding in the closet and has like safe word with her friends and her, female family members to save her from this guy because of his behavior. Maybe she's overreacting a little bit. I don't know, but he seems like an oaf and not like a thinking man that I think that we need. I haven't heard him mention AI once. So, and the military obviously needs it. So that's basically my thing about it. What are you thinking about him, Marie?
I like what he brings to the table. He's a no bones about it kind of guy, and that's what we need. We don't need any wishy-washy people who succumb to mainstream media, because that's what it is. It's the mainstream media that pushes the agenda, that gets people to start following that agenda. At first they start trickling, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Word of mouth. You can't be my friend if you don't believe the same things I do. Yeah, that's just how it works.
Can we talk about like his past history, like before he was nominated?
His behavior was unlike any others. Come on, you were in, right? How many girlfriends and how many wives, divorced? They would fuck anything without a lump in Levi's, and sometimes with.
He's a military officer. He's not enlisted. He's not supposed to be.
Doesn't matter.
Grounded.
Come on. How many officers have hit on me? Come on, John. You got to be real. That's the reality of it. And it's a little family. It's a little group, and you have your own little cliques, and every unit is different. Every company is different. Every platoon is different. Every squad is different. And you know that as well as I do. So, men sleep around, women sleep around. That's the term Army Ho comes from somewhere, So, it was at Fort Gordon. They said they had the highest number of STDs of any base. It wouldn't surprise me, but that's like a way of life in the military. You're away from your spouse.
This guy can't even remember the names of all of his kids. So
I'm sure he does remember the name of all of his kids. Are you telling me that Millie was better? I didn't hear you like all up, up in arms about Millie. Come on.
Of course I hate Millie.
Forced vaccinated, many hundreds of thousands, forced vaccinated. They've been developing this for many, many years. What is in it? What's in it? Why is graphene oxide in there? Why? It's a liquid motherboard. I don't care how crazy I sound saying it. I've been saying it since April of 21. It is a liquid motherboard. Why would graphene oxide be in there? So I'm saying you're okay with Millie, but you're not okay with Pete Hegseth. And Pete's all about America. Millie's all about himself. Pete Hegseth loves his country. He does. He loves God. He believes in God. And those are the two things that in order to be my friend, the two things that I look for in a person.
You have some things in common with him, and you're willing to overlook some of his behavior, and I personally don't like it, but we don't agree. All right, so he was nominated by Trump. It looked like he was going down the tubes. He trotted his mommy out and walked her around Capitol Hill. His mom wrote an email saying that he's a piece of shit. in like 2018 or something. So she came out. She had to whatever. He's got his ex-wife under a non-disclosure agreement. Obviously, the Democrats don't like him. The hearings were kind of wimpy. I mean, the Democrats don't really have any serious part. I mean, they have Tammy Duckworth, who she lost her legs and stuff, but like, if you have this guy up there, this tough machismo guy, and you just have a bunch of women, no matter where they come from, at him, it's not going to be enough to take him down. And then you have a bunch of these effeminate male old senators who weren't in the military, like Tim Kaine. Like Tim Kaine's not tough enough to take down Pete Hegseth. You know what I mean? And so they just they didn't land a glove on him, and he made it through
on merit.
Did you watch
can't say anything bad about him. Senators right here, they'd never filled those shoes before. Representatives, AOC was a bartender. Come on.
I mean, he ran those nonprofits in the ground. He took girls that worked with him to strip clubs, and I'm pretty sure he used the nonprofit money to pay for it. He's ran the shit like a frat house. And
Podesta was at Podesta went to a pizza place, a ping pong place down in DC.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So basically,
good for the goose, but I mean, you love your country, and that's a bad thing to love your country and to want what's best for your country and not be in war at a constant war and want to get rid of all the fraud and waste and abuse. Is that a bad thing? I don't think it's a bad thing. You love your country. You want the illegal immigrants to leave. You think that's a bad thing? All the security threats we got, over 20 million illegals here, John. Over 20 million.
Anybody could have done this stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be Pete.
But who did it? The left did this. And it was all these people were put in these positions to control all the things that were going to. I mean, the WHO is supposed to be regulating us with healthcare. Whatever the WHO says, we're supposed to follow. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes. That's disgusting. The WHO. And now look at all the countries that are out against it. I mean, it's a whole big thing. It's not just the SecDef. Pete fills a very pivotal role in this. And Donald Trump needs to have everybody who has the right mentality to be able to take on the deepest of the deep state, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the WEF, the WHO, the UN, NATO. BRICS is now an issue that we're going to have to contend with. And these are things all these people have to be put in the right people have to be put in these roles. And the first 4 years was just a test. He couldn't do anything because he wouldn't get reelected. And it's not going to be something that all the things that we're dealing with is not something that Donald Trump can just conquer in 4 years. He's got to get reelected, and he's got to be able to point out all the things and all the villains, the real live villains in our movie today. These people are real. They do want to depopulate. They have done it intentionally with the vaccines, with the COVID, and God knows what else. But he has to be in that position that he is in control of the military.
Well, he is in the position. So he got confirmed. The female senators voted against him. They had a couple extra votes. It got down to a tie vote. J.D. Vance, Ty did it, right? If Joni Ernst, who is a military veteran, fake ass politician, military veteran, had voted against him, he wouldn't be the Secretary of Defense. She didn't want to vote against him, but she's a coward, and she's another one of these like fake veteran politicians. So, I mean, I wasn't really super into her anyway, but
I'm not crazy about her either.
She's a total coward.
No, I think she's brave. She stood up to the deep state. She stood up to him. I commend her.
They threatened her that she didn't want to vote for him, obviously. He's a tool.
You can vote for whomever you want. You're supposed to vote for what your constituents want. So what were the people saying when they called her office? Vote for them? Because that's what we're doing, is we're flooding their phones now. That's what we're doing. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and we're taking it out of the playbook of the left. And we're going to make noise now.
So he's the Secretary of Defense now, just for the final part of this. Obviously the transgender thing, he's going to get transgender people out. They canceled all the DEI stuff. That's all pretty much done.
Yep.
They're going to, looks like they're going to cancel some programs.
Great.
They might get rid of the commissaries to save money.
We'll see.
What do you think about what he's going to do, like with the military and so on?
Majority of the people who go into the military are patriots. They love their nation, and they are willing to sacrifice in order to get that good college money. And that's what they want. That's the American dream. They want to better their lives. So this is one avenue that people go through. I was a late bloomer. I enlisted when I was 38 years old. You know, I'm 53 now. I've had enough. It's great. It was really great. I would love to serve under Pete Hegseth because this is why I joined the military. Character, morals, values, standards. That's what I thought it was like in the military.
All right. Well, you said, all this honor and stuff, but like, what about the transgenders? They're getting kicked out. Young people that signed up.
It's a mental health issue, transgenderism. It is.
That's their job.
It is.
Though.
And you can't tell me that I have to accept something that you cannot accept yourself. So if you think that you're a woman and you want to dress as a woman, you go ahead, but don't tell me that it's normal and I have to accept you, because no, I don't. Because to me, that's up here. If you feel like a woman, well, good on you, I guess, if that's.
Couldn't you say like any mental health issue? I mean, they should be kicked out. I mean, if
severe
it's
mental
just
health issues, yeah.
Oh, severe.
Severe. I mean, but people get depressed. People have seasonal depression. People, they go through periods of their life.
It's a gradation thing here.
Yeah, I think that it would be.
I mean, there's people beating their wives, not getting kicked out.
People who are going to be away from their families to go to basic training. It's so difficult. Did I cry? I missed my children so much. Absolutely. And when we deploy, it's 9 months. It's not, the first 17 weeks of our lives, or however many weeks it was, seemed like an eternity. But, it's difficult. You're going to go through a depression period. That's a different kind of depression. Deployment's a different kind of depression. Am I going to make it home? All the things that your brain goes through. No, I wasn't pew, 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 a signal, but, these things go through your mind all the time.
Do you think he's going to do a good job when the China conflict is on the way?
Absolutely, I do.
What makes you think that?
Because he's a take no shit kind of guy, just like Trump. This is what we want, and this is what we're going to have. And plus all he has to do is just go talk to Daddy Trump. You don't like it?
Don't you think his take no shit attitude could be exploited strategically by the Chinese, who are very good at strategy,
absolutely,
deception,
or Russia, absolutely, or Iran?
I mean, the Chinese
absolutely.
Are way more dangerous than Russia. So, I mean, they
yes,
could
they
profile him, his buffoonery, and lay a trap for him and Trump and get us fucked. I mean, he's not educated or smart enough to really engage in high-level military strategies against these people. And I mean, he might have some decent generals advising him and advising the president, but I mean, fortunately, like Mike Walls is national security advisor. He's pretty serious, but I mean, Pete's not contributing to the strategic calculus, in my opinion.
Well, one of the strategic calculuses that Pete Hegseth is considering is all of the land that's been purchased by Chinese that are surrounding all of our military bases in the U.S. And that's one of the first things that he's looking at. So, and I think that's beautiful, because we need to first secure home. After we secure home, then we can worry about other shit. But I think this is one of the primary things to look at, because we do have that issue. They're part of those 20 million illegals that are here right now, because they were nothing but military-aged Chinese men coming over the border in the last 6 months alone.
I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, why wouldn't they?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But the thing is they're purchasing land. They're purchasing a lot of acreage, and it's strategically purchased around military bases. You can look that up.
They would be stupid not to. I mean, we're letting them buy land. I mean, we would buy land around their military bases, but they're not stupid enough to let us do that. We got to wrap up. You got any final wish good tidings for SecDef Pete?
Just stay safe, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't step on your cock, Pete. See what happens. All right. Thanks, Marie. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, we're in the last part of the show here. We've got two of my good friends. We're going to debate the most important topics of the week from military veteran perspective here. Topics are Elon and his shit, Gaza and Israel, and then that end of the Ukraine war, Russia and all that. This week, we got Mason and Chuck. So why don't you guys introduce yourself real quick?
Mason Ballou, I'm the Air Force nerd. I kind of focus on military technology in general, and politics, foreign policy. I'm just interested in it because that drives why we go to war.
Chuck Seal, Army veteran, formerly at the State Department. My focus is generally technology.
All right, about to get started. Chuck, I just want you to know that Mason was in Iraq for 9 whole days. So we've all...
I was there for more than 9 days. It was more like 21.
Wow.
Maybe like 25.
Oh, wow.
And then I rocked it for a week on either end in Qatar.
All right. Hope you had a good time.
I did.
Okay. So, first topic is Elon, and Chuck's going to go first, so I'm going to start the clock.
Listen, we've all heard a lot about Elon Musk, about Donald Trump. I think there are a ton of problems that exist in this situation. The top line for me are the myriad conflicts of interest that he has. You don't bring somebody in to retool the government and retool issues with the government and its operations and its interactions with the private sector when that person is one of the government's largest contractors. I think that necessarily causes problems. And I think the fact that Ramaswamy has pulled out of this consolidates even more power within that individual person of Elon Musk. I think he has demonstrated remarkable ability to go after his self-interests. I think from a purely self-interested perspective on his part, his investment in Donald Trump has paid huge dividends. He's hundreds of billions of dollars richer today than he was when Donald Trump was campaigning. And so that was the $150 million investment he made in Donald Trump's campaign could not have been more fruitful for him from a financial perspective and from the perspective of his influence over U.S. government policy. And this is a person who's not a U.S. or who was not a U.S. citizen at birth, who's not eligible to be president, but is wielding tremendous power over the presidency of the United States at this point with an office in the West Wing. So I think that you have those issues in addition to just being sort of a troll, right? We see stuff.
All right, Mason?
First, you stole my thunder. I'm actually disappointed. I thought the conflict of interest was something that I came up with kind of uniquely myself. I even tweeted to Elon about it. But, there are standard things in place. And I tweeted Elon. I basically said, not that he knows me, but I just tweeted at him that he's either got to leave Doge or he's going to lose Mars. And I think that's a choice he has to make. And he made a very good point that he has a conflict of interest because most of his funding for SpaceX and Tesla are government subsidies. Vivek didn't step away. Let me go ahead and correct you there. He is getting removed because he's nothing but a scam artist. And they're realizing he's just a wolf with a silver tongue and they want to get away from him. As far as Elon making money, that's largely because the stock market is up. It's not necessarily because he's gotten any rewards from contracting. So I feel like you're misleading in that regard. And then finally, I want to touch on the Nazi salute. I don't believe that was actually considered a Nazi salute. They posted all over social media other people doing the exact same movement because it was like touch the heart, and he didn't say any hailing. But the thing that everybody's missing is in the news also this week, it was legalized in South Africa for all the descendants of African tribes to take away land and kill white settlers that are there. So if there's anything that's being genocidal and Nazistic, it's against his ancestors and the people that Elon fled with from South Africa. And South Africa is quickly going to become a Nazi state against whites as opposed to the Nazi that they're all accusing him of being.
So we're talking about the U.S. here. We're not talking about South Africa. I do think that was a Nazi salute. I think it's pretty hard to argue that it wasn't. But, again, these are the same people that are saying it's not a Nazi salute or the ones who are saying nobody invaded the Capitol on January 6th. So it's a bunch of gaslighting in all directions. It's what he did. Do I think it makes him a Nazi? Not necessarily. I think it makes him a troll. He's always trolling people. He's doing things to get attention, and he's getting the attention he's looking for. So I'm not here for these lies about this not being that, right? And then he did make hundreds of billions of dollars off of this election. Whether or not those are unrealized gains in the stock market or not is irrelevant. That is money that is now notionally in his pocket, right?
All right, Mason?
I'm excited about everything he's doing for Doge because I do want him to minimize government waste. Forcing government workers back to the office, I think it's a good thing. Like, you're on taxpayer dollars, you're not supposed to be sitting at home chilling. Like, I like working from home, but it shouldn't be the future of government work. Government work should be a service. You should be sacrificing yourself, not getting cushiness. And I agree with you on January 6th, that was definitely some bullshit. Hopefully they don't pardon the wrong people. But I do think, again, I kind of mentioned at the time that the 1,000th person through that door probably had no idea that the door had been completely broken in.
All right, now it's time to talk about the serious situation in Gaza and Israel. Obviously, we know that they negotiated a truce kind of right after Trump took office, right around that time, and they've been releasing hostages and prisoners on both sides. There's still been some death and destruction that's been going on, but it seems to be proceeding. So we're going to get started here. Mason's going to go first. So Mason, I hope you're ready.
First of all, it's only a 6-week peace deal, so we know that it's going to fall apart. That region's already always at war. And so as soon as the hostilities are completely, or like the ceasefire is completely ended, it's going to be back on like Donkey Kong. A couple interesting stats here is it says that only 33 of the original 250 Israeli hostages are still alive, and they're going to be in bad condition, the ones that are alive. So those are some pretty low survival rates. And it just shows the barbarism of the Hamas terrorists that attacked again over a year ago and are getting what they deserve. And it sounds like Israel's trading 1,000 POWs for the 33 Israelis. And honestly, that's probably a pretty good deal for the Israelis because they can slaughter the Hamas fighters whenever they want to. When they mention all these stats about Hamas casualties and Palestinian casualties, they never annotate how many of those are friendly fire casualties, which I'm sure there's quite a large portion of them. Finally, on the note of the aid work, They're talking about how the Palestinians are starting to clear debris, and it's like 50 or 20 tons of debris that they're going to need to clear. I think that's stupid. You know that there's fighting coming, and if Stalingrad has taught anyone anything, it's when you're against a superior foe, debris gives you an advantage against the superior foe because it gives you better hiding spots. And then finally, it says that the requirement agrees for 600 trucks loads of aid daily to be brought into Gaza. And that will obviously be a very easy source for weapons and rearmaments for the Hamas fighters.
I agree that this is a mess. I don't think for the same reasons. I think there are huge problems with this peace deal. And I fully agree with the fact that this is such a short deal that it is unlikely to turn into anything long-term and fruitful. While this small ceasefire is happening in Gaza, Israel has renewed efforts or strengthened efforts in the West Bank. They're not pulling out of southern Lebanon. We've got things going on multiple fronts. This is one small piece of it, and it's not even designed to last for a long time. I think this is similar in nature to a lot of what Donald Trump does, even though this happened right before he took office. But it's a short-term focused. It's a quick win. It's short-term focused. I want a good headline right now, and I'll worry about tomorrow, and see what we can do there. And frequently that doesn't turn out to be very good. And in terms of the deaths, I mean, yes, I think it's tragic. One death is tragic, but we're talking about 45,000 civilian deaths in Gaza. That is enormous. And the overwhelming majority of those are absolutely not from friendly fire. Those are deaths at the hands of Israeli rocket attacks into that region. That is a problem. That doesn't need to happen, right? That is barbaric. That is barbaric. On both sides, we are seeing barbaric activity, but that is against primarily civilians in Gaza. That is a problem. The Palestinians, the Hamas has done nothing like killing 45,000 Israeli civilians.
They've done nothing like it because they can't. They tried and they got their asses kicked. They would have done that. They would have done much worse if they were able to. If Israel doesn't defend itself, they die. If Hamas doesn't defend themselves, they'll still be allowed to live. So it's just a different look, in my opinion. And I just think that we're going to see, again, the UN being used as a pawn for terrorism as opposed to being a peacekeeping agency that it's supposed to be in the first place. The UN probably needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is tragic on both sides. In some ways, we agree. I'm not sure that either party, be that Hamas or the Israeli government, is truly interested in a lasting peace. And I really don't think that they have somebody in the White House right now who is interested in a lasting peace either. I think that person is transactional, wants great headlines, just wants to look good and win the day, doesn't care one bit about lasting peace in that region. That's going to be a problem if both of the parties there also don't care.
All right, that was great. Last topic is Ukraine, Russia. Trump is the new president. Everyone's talking about ending the war. So how's the war going to end? We're starting off with Chuck.
Well, I'm not sure how the war is going to end, and I'm also not sure, again, that Trump is necessarily interested in ending the war as he is interested in just getting a good headline. I think he wants his problems to go away, not to work toward lasting peace in that region. I think it's really telling that one of the first major sort of public discussions Trump is having about this after getting elected, he's talking about lowering oil prices, because I think Russia can probably economically can withstand lower oil prices for quite a period of time, right? That's not going to bring about an immediate end to this crisis, but one thing that does for Trump is it helps him potentially with cost of living in the United States. I'm not saying anything is negative about that, but I think one of the only levers Trump has to pull in terms of cost of living in the United States is potentially bringing down oil prices. Like, you don't want negative inflation going on. I think Trump has inherited a situation where inflation is actually quite low, even though prices are still very high. So he doesn't have a lot of wiggle room in terms of what he can do with the U.S. economy. And the fact that he may be looking at trying to bring down oil prices as a mechanism for that is interesting. I think that's noteworthy. I think, to me, it shows me something about Trump's interest in this conflict. Very little interest in this conflict, very little interest in what happens. I don't think he cares one bit about Ukrainian territory or Russian territory. I also think Trump is mostly attracted to dictators. So in all likelihood, he's pulling for a Putin victory here as opposed to a Zelensky victory here. It also gives him the ability to operate at will within a global space.
Why should he care about this territory? We have no interest in Russia or Ukraine. They're not strategic allies. Fuck them. We have no business being a part of it. And his strategy of driving down the price of oil, again, like you mentioned, is to choke off the Russian economy. And he's already going to do that by cutting off aid to Ukraine. Money runs wars. That's the fact. The fact that we've been funding these wars has enabled the wars to go on. Since Biden's been in office, he's basically given over $1 billion in aid to Ukraine every week. That's going to dry up, and that means Ukraine has to come to the negotiating table where Zelensky can't appear to be strong while sacrificing the youth of his country. Zelensky's a piece of shit. I kind of look at him like Rudy Giuliani of Ukraine, because Rudy Giuliani had never done anything noteworthy or good. He was just in office when 9/11 happened, and then everybody was sympathetic towards him. Same way as Zelensky. Just a human piece of shit who's taking advantage of all of the negativity in the world and elevating himself to power. And then finally, The whole thing is over Ukraine joining NATO. And Trump might pull us out of NATO, which is probably a good decision, because as long as we're in NATO and we have a draft, America's youth are basically enslaved by every single foreign European member of NATO. And I dislike that. And if we pull out of NATO and NATO starts collapsing, Russia gets its number one request. And then finally, on the note of generations being killed, I don't think I have enough time, but there was a video of Russian people dancing. If you notice, there were no young men in that video. It was all smoking hot women.
Okay. All right. That was weird. All right. Chuck.
As with what I was ending on, why do we care about this? I think, Trump would certainly support Putin's aspirations because this is, territorial conquest, which Trump is now alluding to the fact that he wants to do the same. So I think him allowing this and being on the side of Putin in this gives him the ability to operate and potentially take over other places globally. I think that's a distinct possibility. I also think that it is absolutely insane that people keep talking about U.S. young men being subject to the draft. We do not have a draft. We do not have a draft. We have legislation that allows for a draft. We do not have a draft. Again, these are made up. These are lies. We do not have a draft.
Mason.
I mean, you have to register for the draft. Just because we're not activating the draft doesn't mean we don't have a draft. We're just not utilizing the draft right now. So you have a misnomer there. And then comparing Trump conquest of Greenland, which would be a diplomatic conquest consensually done, same as Canada, is ludicrous to compare it to Russians sending in combat troops to conquer territory. Like that's just, again, a false comparison. And I do think we need to stop enslaving ourselves to European powers. We need to become the free America as opposed to letting our politicians gain favor with their buddies in Europe.
All right, that was great debate, good discussion with Mason and Chuck. Thank you guys for joining, and that's the end of the show. So thanks everybody for watching. Goodbye.